with presentations and open discussions on digitalization of the region. Presentation of business ideas at the Startup Camp, inspiring talks and discussions on the latest global achievements and digital innovations, top industry professionals and B2B meetings with leading Western Balkan companies. Join us and be a part of the digital revolution. Digital Summit, 18th and 19th April, Skopje.
Дами и господа, ексцеленции, Дамјан, министерот Манчевски, нашиот главниот товар, нашиот домаќин за првиот дигитален самит на Западниот Балкан. Добре дојдовте на последниот панел. Мислам дека ќе имаме многу интересна дискусија. Јас ќе се префрлам на англиски, бидејќи имам улога на модератор и на некој начин одговорен сум да биде интересно, да биде суштински и да има некаков резултат на крајот. Adlai Stevenson, an American statesman, said, "Free press is the mother of all liberties and our progress under liberty." And the point here, I think, is that we need informed citizens. They need to make decisions on voting and other things based on the right information, on the truth. That's why freedom of the press is such an important, it's the backbone of any functional democracy. And we have learned that, I think, the hard way in the context of our crisis, where we had national TV stations not really broadcasting the biggest wiretap affair, the biggest scandal since our independence in 1991. So, but maybe a bit later on that, we have Robert here, who I think is going to be in a situation to tell us what is the current state of play on freedom of the media in Macedonia, but also on the phenomenon of fake news. Fake news is not really a new phenomenon. We need only to recall the term propaganda to have a sense. It's been with us for centuries. But the technological progress is increasing the challenge. And it's not so much the problem of having one source of information. We have many, and it's not easy really to distinguish the real news from the fake news. I don't think we should shy away from our own, let's say, role in this, the city of Veles, because we believe that progress starts with facing a problem. And this, I think, globally even has become notorious of the problem. It had a role, it played a role in the American presidential elections in 2016, when online news sites had a bigger and a deeper reach on Facebook than the traditional American media of the likes of New York Times or Washington Post or the CNN. The problem with fake news is that in addition to not really having the relevant information, trust suffers. People are confused, they don't really know whom to trust, and I think this is also a challenge for the traditional media. Trust is very important in a society. I spent part of last night reading studies and articles on fake news. I have some ideas. But this is not about me, because we have great panelists with us here, 6 of them. I'm going to take my seat now. And we will start with Robert Popovski, who is a colleague minister in charge of communication, accountability and transparency. Robert, би сакал да те прашам каква е ситуацијата со слободата на медиумите во Македонија, дали знам дека имаш очигледни напори да се зголеми транспарентноста во начинот на владење, дали мислиш дека тоа помага? Еве еден пример од вчера. Знаете дека Македонија имаше големи 2 дена, добивме чиста и безусловна препорака за почеток на пристапни преговори. Истовремено имаше еден голем говор на францускиот председател Макрон во Страсбург, каде што меѓу другото зборуваше дека Европа предизвикот на авторитаризмот треба да одговори не со авторитарна демократија, туку со авторитетот на демократијата. Меѓу другото, имаше и нешто околу проширувањето, дека за него е важна консолидацијата внатрешна и внатрешните реформи на Европската Унија, за потоа да може да прими нови членки. Неколку сајтови во Македонија имаа наслови: шокантна изјава на председателот Макрон, не сака да ја види Македонија и Србија во Европската Унија. Јас лично, поради тоа што тоа ми е професија, веднаш видов дека ова нема логика. Зошто да не сака да ја види Србија и Македонија, а да сака да ги види, да речеме, другите држави, 4 партнери и пријатели од 6 држави од Западниот Балкан. Меѓутоа, дали е ова лажна вест, дали е ова само спин или можеби обид за сензационализам со насловот, меѓутоа ако се повтори 10 пати, останува негде мислам дека во контекстот, дека имаме една таква изјава на еден од најголемите, најважните лидери во Европа денеска. Толку од мене. Роберт, извини за подолгиот вовед. Повели.
Ти благодарам, Никола. Добар ден на сите. Ви благодарам што одвоивте време и ќе земете учество на овој панел посветен на лажните вести. Ситуација, состојба, појава која што, за жал, станува тема број 1 на секаде во светот. Не е само Република Македонија изложена на сето она што тие го предизвикуваат во општеството и кај секој поединец во општеството, но секако нашата држава има свои специфики. Јас ќе ги искажам на почетокот дел од тие кратки констатации, забелешки и едно подсетување на сето она што го поминавме изминативе 11 години кога во Македонија владеше автократскиот режим и за тоа што сега владата се обидува да направи во насока на справување со оваа појава која што зазема драматични пропорции. Но дозволете ми на почетокот уште еднаш јас во моје име да изразам огромно задоволство од чистата неусловена препорака што Европската комисија врачи на Република Македонија за почеток на преговорите и особено ме радува делот на извештајот на Европската комисија што констатира прогрес во слободата на изразувањето, особено во подобрувањето на климата за работа на медиумите и намалување на притисокот врз новинарите без цензура. Нешто што знаете дека беше страшно проблематично во изминатите повеќе од една деценија. Исто така се истакнува консултацијата и широките јавни дебати со разни чинители во општеството при донесување на Законот за аудио и аудиовизуелни медиумски услуги, една од клучните алатки во медиумските реформи. Извештајот констатира и дека е потребно и понатамошно подобрување, реформи во јавниот сервис и сето тоа е дополнителна мотивација дека навистина владата треба да даде дополнителни напори. Ова е само почеток, едно признание за сето она што е досега направено, меѓутоа треба уште многу да сработиме владата, но заедно со граѓаните, со граѓанскиот сектор, за да ги подобриме состојбите во оваа сфера. Инаку се сеќавате, Freedom House пред известно време во извештајот пред неколку дена по години драматичен пат и назадување е истакна Македонија како светол пример во регионот. Тоа значи дека веројатно излеговме од тунелот, ја гледаме светлината, но не можеме да тврдиме дека траумите се зад нас и затоа е потребна дополнителна максимална енергија за состојбите да се поправат и стандардите во општеството да бидат вратени. Инаку, Република Македонија помина исклучително тежок период. 11 години во кој што нашето општество претрпе и секој граѓанин можеби поединечно претрпе една состојба на заробена држава, како што беше опишана Република Македонија, состојба во која поранешната власт се обидуваше да ја оневозможи до максимални граници слободата на говорот и слободата на изразување, особено слободата на медиумите и новинарската професија. Република Македонија не е исклучок од светскиот тренд на пласирање лажни вести и за остварување на општествени политички цели на разни центри на моќ. Претходната власт сето тоа го правеше, една од алатките и беа владините реклами, владината пропаганда, за кои што потрошија се уште не до крај точни податоци, не знаеме, огромни суми, милионски суми пари на граѓаните, за да ја пропагираат нивната вистина. Беа назначувани главни уредници со политички диктат, вестите се уредуваа од еден политички центар. Тогашната опозиција немаше или беше страшно лимитиран пристапот до предсе традиционалните медиуми, цензурата беше присутна насекаде, не само опозицијата, туку и слободомислечкото општество и поединци исто така има огромен проблем да и се обратат на јавноста. Колеги новинари, бранејќи ја слободата на говорот, беа бркани од работа, имавме новинари политички затвореници. Велам кратко да се подсетиме за да не ни се повтори, како што велевме постојано, кога ги објавувавме така наречените бомби во периодот, кога на вистина требаше да се дознае вистината за тоа што се случува во Република Македонија. Заробената држава верувам дека е зад нас, но алатките кои што тогашната владеачка гарнитура ги користеше или поточно како ја злоупотребуваше медиумската сфера, мораме да ги спомнеме уште еднаш. Че минатата власт имаше таква една креативност да ги злоупотреби сите можни форми и механизми на контрола во општеството. Преку наменски креирани портали, преку злоупотреба на сите социјални форми на комуникација, на дигиталните платформи, беа креирани лажни вести, кои што потоа тактиката беше да бидат преземени од традиционалните медиуми. Телевизиите, кои што се уште во Република Македонија се најдоминантни, најмоćни, највлијателни, и на тој начин се правеше една комбинација помеѓу влијание на социјалните мрежи, на онаа публика што е таму актуелна, и кај онаа популација на население која што не ги следи социјалните мрежи, која што е повозрасна, со пониско ниво на едукација, и на тој начин целото општество да се држи во зависност. Лагите беа драматични, информативните појаси на медиумите ги преземаа во целост вестите што беа креирани преку порталите, бидејќи беше тешко да се тужи портал или да се поведе судски спор на тој начин. Измислија дури една форма на Кајрони горе, се сеќавате што одеа за време на оние турски серии што ги купува и така натаму, и на Кајроните стоеше два збора: некој од нас злопов, крадец, криминалец, следува во вестите. Она што беше на дополнување на лагата, или што веројатно ја следи секоја така креирана лага, е ширењето на говорот на омраза. Говорот на омраза беше составен дел на лагите што беа ширени. Омразата беше форсирана во општеството по сите основи. Поделби по национална, етничка припадност, раздор, конфликтност, мрачни емоции, страв меѓу граѓаните. Суштината беше неизвестност, страв и мобилизирање на граѓанството дека всушност некој ја предава, ја издава државата и тој треба да биде елиминиран. Тоа да биде елиминиран резултираше со обид да бидат ликвидирани луѓе на 27. април во Собранието на Република Македонија. Сега се навршува една година од тој најтрауматичен настан во македонската историја и верувам дека вечно ќе не опоменува што се можеше да се случи и за среќа таквото сценарио што не се реализира и се уште и првиот човек на владата и многу од нашите колеги се уште се меѓу вас. Ова го спомнувам затоа што и покрај тоа што се случи, практиката не престана. Следуваа локални избори и беше тогаш изработена една пропагандна лага дека Македонија и сите општини ќе бидат населени со бегалци. Се сеќавате на тоа. Па се организира референдуми на денот, се планираше да се организираат референдуми на денот пред одржување или на денот на одржување на изборите, се потпишуваа граѓани кои што беа држани во таа лажна реалност дека Македонија е повторно под закана. Па тоа продолжува сега со, да речеме, такви измислици дека спомениците на поранешната власт со бугарски кран ќе бидат тргани од нивните постаменти, дека ќе бидат киднапирани деца на актуелни политичари и така натаму и така натаму. Морбидно, страшно и многу опасно во едно општество што е фрагилно како што е нашето, а такви се и општествата на Западниот Балкан. Ние сме слични сите. Затоа сегашната владеачка гарнитура, она што го ветуваше за време на опозиција, веднаш го примени од моментот на стапување на власт. Првото што го направивме и што го правиме во континуитет, на лагата и ја спротивставивме вистината. Значи, нема поголем непријател за лагата од вистината кога ќе пуштите до граѓаните. Претходната власт ги криеше информациите, ние сега ги објавуваме. Тоа е таа транспарентност на владата, не криеме ништо. Некои дори велат, може би сте и претранспарентни. Нема претранспарентност. Работите треба да се кажат и треба да се кажат во изворна, реална форма. Некогаш болат, но во суштина тоа ја победува лагата или можноста за манипулации со лажните информации што се прават. Меѓу првите одлуки, ако не и прва, не се сеќавам добро, беше укинување на владиното рекламирање. Нема владина пропаганда. Во новиот закон за аудиовизуелни медиумски услуги предвидуваме не само владино, да нема буџетски пари, да не сме да се трошат буџетски пари за пропагирање на институциите, на локалните самоуправи и така натаму. Да го забравиме тоа еднаш за секогаш. Реалноста да можеме да ја анализираме, граѓаните да можат да ја анализираат, медиумите и да видиме која власт како работи на крајот на криштата на избори да биде оценета за тоа што го прави. Целосна поддршка на слободата на говорот и медиумските права и слободи. Нула толеранција за закани, уцени, притисоци врз медиумите и медиумските работници има оваа влада. Се сеќавате кога председателот на Сдруженијето на новинари беше заканет, беше под закана, беше навредуван, новинарите протестираа пред владата, јас се вклучив на тој протест да искажам дека сме солидарни со нив и дека тоа не смее да се случува. Институциите на владата си ја завршија работата, некаде во правосудниот систем се појавија проблемите кои што следуваат за поправање и тоа е една од многу сериозните области кои што треба да бидат реформирани. Новиот закон за аудиовизуелни медиумски услуги ја гарантира независноста и професионалноста на Советот на агенцијата, на првиот човек на агенцијата за медиуми, на јавниот сервис. Македонија мора да добие вистински јавен сервис кој што ќе ги постави стандардите на информирањето. Секаде тоа е така, каде што има нормално демократско општество. Конкретна поддршка за истражувачкото новинарство. Мене ми е многу драго што и Сашка е тука, ја гледам, затоа што ако истражувачкото новинарство функционира, има простор да работи, има простор на допир до информации, лагата завршува. Ќе се дознае кој лаже и како лаже и која му е целта. Направивме слободен пристап, бесплатен до катастарот и Централниот регистар за истражувачките новинари, но тоа не е доволно, треба многу повеќе и тука сме посветени целосно. Како велат, што помалку регулација, тоа подобра регулација. Потребни се некои законски измени, но суштината е целосна поддршка и видливост на само регулаторните тела. Советот за етика во медиумите, Советот на честа при Сдруженијето на новинари на Македонија, се формираат и некои нови организации кои што само иницијативно сега се појавуваат и мене тоа многу ме радува. Општеството функционира, јавноста, граѓанскиот сектор е повторно на вистинската патека. Еве и ќе го спомнам, Бирото за интерактивно рекламирање. Отворивме една дискусија како ова интернет сфера да ја третираме. Имаше различни мислења, меѓутоа еве неколку маркетинг агенции со неколку портали само иницијативно се организираат да ги дефинираат позициите и областа и при тоа изработиле нивни етички кодекси и така натаму. Тоа е суштината на демократското и граѓанско општество. Силна е поддршката и помошта на граѓанскиот сектор, на платформите и сервисите за проверка на фактите и аргументите од оваа влада. Сакаме да знаеме што е вистина, што не е вистина. И при тоа исто така сакаме да се коригираме за сето она што не докрај, јавно, транспарентно, отворено го прават сите функционери. Оваа влада за прв пат во историјата сама ги објавува трошоците. Она што беше табу тема. Не се знае кај се трошат парите на граѓаните. Почнавме од премиерот, министрите, замениците министри, државните секретари, генералниот секретар на владата, сега од минатата седница проширивме на сите институции, кај што владата може да задолжи или да укаже дека треба директорите и замениците да ги прикажат нивните трошења. Меѓутоа, алатката за транспарентност ќе ја понудиме на локалната самоуправа и на сите други сегменти во општеството, кои што имаат обврска да бидат транспарентни и отворени пред јавноста. Министерството за образование и наука разгледува иницијатива за воведување на програми за зголемување на медиумската писменост во образовниот процес. Ова е многу битна работа. Веруваме и се надеваме дека ќе даде вистински резултати. Ги следиме меѓународните препораки и искуства. Во ноември се формираше експертска група од 40 членови на Европската комисија. Очекуваме препораките да бидат споделени овој месец. Ќе се обидеме да бидеме меѓу лидерите во справувањето со лажните вести. И за крај, ќе го спомнам градот Велес. Градот Велес не ги измисли лажните вести. Луѓе од градот Велес добро заработија, креирајќи лажни вести и влијаја на изборите во една огромна држава. Градот Велес, за жал, стана синоним на лажните вести. Ние ќе се обидеме градот Велес да стане и да прерасне во синоним на борбата со лажните вести не само на Велес, туку и на Република Македонија. Благодарам.
Thank you very much, Minister Popovski. One can see that you've been a journalist before joining politics. Okay. But also, to be fair, it is true that one of the fundamentals in the Commission reports is freedom of expression, and Macedonia scored the highest in the region of the 6 Western Balkans for the progress made in comparison to the last report of 2016. And it is good progress, which is almost the highest. But I think we still have things to do. We go to Matthew Jacobs, who is a digital coordinator for the Bureau of European and Eurasian Affairs at the US State Department. He has recently focused on how to foster resiliences in a digital landscape defined by disinformation and communal fracturing, an effort that has required building bridges between public and private sector thought leaders. So, Matt, if I may, I'm going to use first names. Let's be fast. Please feel free to jump into each other's conversations. How does the State Department define fake news? How do you approach the issue, the phenomena? Is it national or global? Can you face it only with national measures, or it has to be a global effort? What specific mechanisms are you implementing, consider to implement? Please.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you for inviting me to share the stage with you and with my fellow panelists. I've seen the work that went into building this digital summit since October, and the investment on the behalf of the Macedonian government is admirable, and what this event represents is significant. So I'm honored to be here on a stage built on that effort. So the term fake news itself is something that I sometimes take issue with. Fake news is a term that is charged, that is ubiquitous, but it's a little bit obtuse. It's a little bit unclear. What I say is fake news, what I hear when I read the term fake news, is going to be completely different from what, say, anyone else might interpret, from what my fellow panelists might interpret from the term fake news. And in fact, there's always the opportunity that on a panel about fake news, we might have 6 different panelists who are reading this definition differently. You might have someone who would say that fake news is, bad reporting. You might say that fake news is the result of media literacy problems. You might even, and this is the one that I see most often, fake news is as a joke. Fake news is a meme in and of itself, something that is taken so jovially. But for me, when I see fake news, I see something very insidious. I see disinformation, misinformation, the evolution of propaganda, the evolution of using democratic ideals to undermine those very same democratic ideals with the intent to make people, fracture communities, whether that is intrastate, interstate, and as a way of kind of undermining the value and the potentiality of objectivity. And if we think of objectivity in the democratic sense, this is the one element that makes everyone equal. This is the one element that allows any citizen of any country to have a say, to engage in an argument about the direction of their country. And so when we think about fake news, when we use that term fake news, how is it that we can take something that sounds funny when used in amongst conversation between friends, like, oh, that's fake news, when really it represents such a sinister intention? We really need to start thinking about a taxonomy that is, that is reflective of that kind of issue, something that potentially destructive, and with an issue that is, as you mentioned, global in scale. If we can't define it similarly, if we can't work from an operational definition, we can't come together to solve this problem in a unified fashion, and in a way that would cause or would precipitate a result that we feel would be satisfactory. Now, as I mentioned, I tend to view fake news as an intentional undermining of democratic processes. And as you mentioned, this was something that's not new. Fake news, propaganda, disinformation, misinformation, these are all realities that government communicators like myself have had to deal with for centuries. This is not a new practice. What has changed, however, as was mentioned, is that we've moved it to a new medium. And this new medium has been what's really given it a ton of attention because it moves so fast. The barrier to entry in digital communications is so much lower than what it used to be in traditional media, whether that was print, radio, TV, film. What used to be an expensive, many people getting together to produce one product to target maybe one segment of an audience has now completely flipped from one person can make many products to target many people. And so this proliferation of disinformation, misinformation, and its ability to spread farther, faster, and deeper than ever before is really raising it to the forefront of our attention. Now, the one thing I want to talk about that is I think there's sometimes a tendency to look at that and go, okay, digital, what defines digital? Bots, platforms, and the like. And we tend to want to put this kind of technological Band-Aid on a problem and say, okay, it's because we have bots now, that's what's spreading misinformation, or these platforms are creating these filter bubbles. We never have had filter bubbles before, so this is perpetuating this. And what I will say is that, yeah, these are all factors. Bots are certainly a factor. We see them swarm comment threads. We see them send out misinformation. The filter algorithms on Facebook and other platforms certainly make sure that we are more inclined to see material from others, but these are all phenomena that we've had to deal with. So, for example, the filter bubble is just the extension of a social matching theory that we've seen in behavioral economics since we started this practice. But we need to think about how technology has revolutionized that. Now, recently, MIT released a study that has completely flipped some of these arguments on the head. And this MIT study showcased that some of our common folk wisdom about the digital element of digital disinformation might be completely misunderstood. So when everyone is concerned about bots and how they're spreading misinformation, and this is really, the crux, or this is the real driver of this, the MIT study showed that bots themselves are actually not able to reach the depth of people that we would assume. They can spread a bunch of information, but it's very shallow. It reaches the one person who sees it, and it doesn't necessarily move much further beyond that. And so what we're looking at is that we're finding that what we think is a technological problem remains a human issue. We are the ones who are spreading misinformation. We're the ones who tend to have the tendency to not be able to differentiate between a piece of factual information and a piece of disinformation. Some of this is rooted in the fact that we're being bombarded with so much information. Some of it is based on how we use these technologies, generally fairly interstitially, you know, as we're waiting for a taxi, waiting for a bus. We're not sitting there investing ourselves in these articles or these pieces of information, so we tend to, you know, trick ourselves into thinking that this is realistic, or we see certain peripheral cues. It looks really professional. This publication sounds like it has a really professional name, or look at all these likes, comments, and shares. I guess it's kind of legitimate. I'll share it too. But it all goes down to it's a human problem. And if it's a human problem, at least on the government side, I think we really need a human-centered approach. And we need to keep that at the forefront of our attention. And so at the State Department, we've really embraced that. And we've really said, okay, well, what brought us here? What makes someone, you know, join the diplomatic corps? What makes someone want to be a government communicator? Engagement. Engagement with audiences. Engagement with foreign audiences. In my case, I work with audiences from across the region, and with my colleagues at the embassy who are working very closely with you guys, we are still driven by this idea that we can engage with people. And when we are engaging with people, we can solve issues. We can solve issues together. So that's got to be the starting point. That's something we know how to do already. We may not know how to program bots, but we certainly know how to talk to people. So we need to think about that. But if it hasn't, you know, if engagement is our core option here, what has been our shortcoming? What has allowed disinformation to thrive? And how can we adjust for that? We have to admit that we might have to get better at this. And there are a couple things that I've pointed out and that I've been working on. And the first one is that governments need to get better at digital communication. I believe that for the most part, governments adopted digital as a platform. We got on Facebook, we got on Twitter, we even have Instagram. Some people were inclined to even use Snapchat. And what we didn't do, though, is we expected these platforms and these audiences to adjust to how we used to communicate. We took our standard models that we've been doing since the beginning of diplomacy and expected the digital community to adjust to us. There was less of an emphasis on how we can adjust to the digital community. How do we have to change to make sure that we're speaking to the right audiences, to make sure that we're speaking in a voice that is accessible on these platforms, that looks realistic, that looks organic on these platforms. And we haven't necessarily done the best job at that. And we are changing that, though. And I think one of the best ways we can do that is to work together. For the simple fact that governments are kind of defined by being slow. Bureaucratic processes mean that we don't change too often, and that when we adopt changes, they have to go through layers of approval, and that takes time. But the digital economy, the digital media environment is defined by disruption. It's defined by the speed at which it changes. What are the new memes? What are the new, I don't know, shorthand abbreviations? How do people talk? There's no way that a government that moves slow and a media environment that moves fast can ever catch up to one another. So the only way that I've thought we might be able to do this, or perhaps maybe one of the best ways, because I'm always open to new ideas, and I hope I'll get some from my panelists here, is that we have to work together. And recently, within the last 2 years, I actually launched an initiative that brought together a number of digital government communicators to conferences, to meetings, to say that, hey, we've got to learn together. What best practices can I get from you? What best practices can you get to me? If we distribute that learning workload, maybe we can all improve together, and we can also tackle this together. And the next part is we have to be a little bit more fast about how we communicate to people. Digital environment, as I said, is very fast, and there are a ton of players on it. So they're going to want to get their news out. They're going to want to be the novel voice. They want to break the first story. But if they do that, they take the narrative from us. Our ability to control our narrative, to tell our story accurately and as we see it and as we've envisioned would be best for our citizens and best for our respective constituencies, they take that. And then we have to fight that. We have to counteract that, which puts us in a reactive position, which means we've got to work twice as hard just to get our narrative out there. So we have to learn to grow fast, just like the digital information environment itself. And the last bit is we have to remember our core comparative advantage to malign information actors in this space. And that is that, at least on the government side, and I think in any of the kind of public-oriented sectors, journalists and so forth, educators, is that we have hope for our citizens. We care about our people. We took these jobs because we care about being able to make a better world with everyone and for everyone. And that's powerful. And we have forgotten how to communicate that to some degree. But that is the one thing that malign information actors don't have. They're working against the people. We're working for them. How can we bring hope? How can we bring positive messaging? If they want us to operate and act in the dark by obfuscating fact, by undermining objectivity, how can we be the light? How can we bring that to that space? Because the darkness abhors the light. The light pays no mind to the darkness. We need to be that light.
Thank you. The study you referred to, MIT, it showed that fake news actually travels and goes deeper 6 times faster and deeper than the truth, than the real news. Because it's surprising, it's novel, shocking titles, and it evokes strong emotions, usually negative, whether it's surprise or disgust or anger. And I don't think this is very surprising. It was Jonathan Swift, I think, who said, falsehood flies and the truth limps after, but then it's too late. So I think this is an important fight. I'd like to ask Rachel Wright, who is a journalist and a filmmaker, has been for nearly, well, I won't say how many years, traveling throughout the world for the BBC, also involved in training journalists in several places, including in our Macedonia. And you are partly to be thanked for one of our best TV shows in terms of political issues and debates, etc. So, is this only about the social media? Is it also about the traditional, the mainstream media? What do you tell the journalists that you train and talk to? And tell us a little bit about the BBC perspective on the issue.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much for inviting me.
Please talk closer to the microphone.
Oh, I don't know how to use these things. Yeah, as you mentioned, I've been a journalist on and off for the BBC for about 30 years. And actually, I think the BBC is one of the most trusted news sources around the world, and the least likely to be the purveyor of fake news, I hope. And I think one of the reasons for that is the unique way that the BBC is funded. It is not paid for by taxpayers, it is paid for by a license fee, which means that it has an amazing editorial independence that a lot of places throughout the world don't have. You, if you're a British citizen, you have to buy a license fee, which actually is a lot of money. It's £150 a year. If you don't have a license fee, you can be prosecuted and you can be sent to jail. So there are these little detector vans that go around people's houses and they can tell if you're watching TV, and they knock on the door, and if you are watching TV and you don't have a license, then you will be prosecuted. So the license fee funds the BBC, which means it is editorially independent of government. The only agenda it has is a news agenda, a journalist agenda. It doesn't have any other agendas. And then part of the BBC's unique trust, I think, that people have in it is because of the editorial values that the BBC has. Now, when you join the BBC, you have to read a book this big, and we have to constantly refer to it, which is the editorial values that we have to abide by. And I won't bore you, because we'll be here for the next 3 days if I was to go through them all, but you know, they are the basic values that I try to teach other people. They are the basic values that all of the broadcasters in Britain have to abide by, not just the BBC. They are Ofcom, which is the regulating body, makes sure and regulates that anyone that doesn't abide by these editorial values will be shamed, named and shamed, and then ultimately they could lose their job. I've been through that process several times. I did a film in India about paedophilia in this utopian town. And they took me to editorial, to the Ofcom, to BBC Trust. It took 2 years. They were trying to challenge me on all of these editorial values, as in that I had an agenda, that I was lying, all of these things. And you'll be pleased to know that I was exonerated on all 36 counts. But we are accountable, which is one of the main other tenets of the editorial values. Now, what with the proliferation of social media, the BBC does have, a task, and we do want to use social media. We do want to use what audiences supply us, that they send us tweets, they send us pictures. When a big story happens, Twitter is one of the main sources of news and information. That is what, you get stuff from Twitter that you can't possibly get from your journalists because they won't necessarily be there. So we are very dependent on people sending in stuff. But obviously, we need to check it, we need to verify it, and we have an entire department called the User-Generated Content Department who are taking over the newsroom gradually. And it is their job to moderate everything that's sent in, and they fact-check it, they take the picture, they try to see if it's been used, if they have a whole list of guidelines that they abide by in order to verify that the people are saying and sending in things which they're not making up, or they're not just picking up from something else. Is it a fake photograph? Is it a real one? Has it been used before? All these fact checks, all these things. We are trained journalists. That is the problem now, is that most people in Britain are not just getting their news from us, unfortunately. They are getting their news, as we've been discussing, from everywhere else. And that takes away one of the most important things that journalists do, which is filter information. So you have the news, you have what's happening, then you have the journalist who is trained to filter that and then send it and then produce something that is understandable by the public. They are the media, they are the medium, they're in between. That's where the word comes from. If you take that away, then you just have raw footage, you just have raw information. And a lot of that now is not about facts, it's about opinions. And that's the problem. It's not dealing with facts, it's dealing with opinions. And that is the problem, is that people are, writing what they think, and as we talked about the bubble, the filter bubble, they're reading what they think, they're reinforcing their prejudices. And that's why one of the main things that we need to do is to get citizens to become journalists. That's what we have to do. We have to educate people, because if they don't know what's going on in the world, then they don't have that ability to analyse. I'm sure you're all aware of Brexit. One of the main factors in the way that Britain voted was the fact that for a long time, British people really don't know anything about the EU. They're not interested, they're not educated. You ask them questions, they haven't got a clue. And in fact, on the day of Brexit, one of the most Googled questions was, what is the EU? That was on the day of the referendum. So, that shows you, if you don't have a basic level of education, you're not able to process and understand what's going on, because it's very obvious when something is fake. Now, there was drip, drip, drip throughout the last 20 years from certain newspapers that I won't mention, and they made up a lot of facts about the EU. They made out, they want us to have straight bananas, and they want us to get rid of, jumpers or whatever. And people were susceptible to it, and that was, one of the main factors behind Brexit. Now, what the BBC is trying to do is they've launched an initiative to try to help young people, especially, to become journalists, to understand what they're reading or seeing, to try to get them to put into place these tools, a toolkit of how to recognise what is fake news, or how to cross-check, how to fact-check, how to, all these things that we do as journalists. We're becoming increasingly redundant, unfortunately, because people are doing it themselves. So that is one of the main initiatives that the BBC is trying to do, especially with young people. But while I'm here, I wanted to just say something else. I do think there is a kind of a spectrum with fake news here and fully objective news at this end, of which I don't think it's ever really possible, as you were alluding to. It's never really possible to be completely objective. We all have unconscious bias. We all have, ideas out there, and even as a journalist, even if you try to be objective, you will select certain stories which fit in with your worldview. You will select certain people, you will write it in a certain way, even if you try really hard to be objective. And that's why I think it's important that certainly at the BBC, and I've always been a diversity champion, one of the things I think is very important is you have people of different backgrounds in the BBC, that they aren't all just liberal, white, middle-class people like me that went to Oxford and we all, there's a groupthink. There is a groupthink there, in that, people just, we all tend to be sort of liberal because when you're a journalist, you're questioning things, right? So most conservative people on the whole want to conserve, they want to preserve, they want to keep it there. Therefore, if you're asking questions, you can generally on the liberal side.
I hate to interrupt, but we have to keep up the pace because we have 3 more speakers.
On too long.
I'd like to get questions from the audience.
Sorry, that's it.
Okay.
That's all I was going to say.
I'm usually a nice guy, but I'm also in charge of the timeline. I'll go to Eric Burns, who is a communications and media strategist and a leading democratic communications and media strategist and a pundit in Washington, D.C. He has worked on numerous political campaigns in the U.S. and abroad and has been a fixture in American media in recent years. And I think has a very close experience in dealing with fake news. I will bring up one title related to the American presidential elections. Pope Francis endorses Donald Trump.
Yes.
Can you tell us perhaps a little bit about the mechanics of how that
thank you, and thank you, Nicola, and I support all of the efforts, by the way, of the government here in Macedonia, of which I'm proud to have been working here in Macedonia for some time. And I've seen this phenomenon develop on 2 continents. And I'll tell you, fake news as we understand it now is really the evolution of what we used to call misinformation, which I've been fighting in the United States with conservative media for at least 10 years. And the ingredients are all very similar. And to your point about Pope Francis, right? This was a story that came out during the election in 2016. Pope Francis endorses Trump. Now, anyone who knows anything about Pope Francis or about Donald Trump knows that that would never happen. However, you have a lot of folks in the United States who are evangelical, and maybe for any sorts of various reasons, this was a very, very powerful narrative to them. This was an endorsement for them, even though entirely false, that emotionally connected to them. And as we're talking about training journalists and educating people, what we have to remember is that fake news, almost more than anything, is designed to connect to people's predetermined biases, their identity about who they are, and connect with them emotionally. And it's something that, frankly, has become very sophisticated. So where it used to be you might have a partisan news network that would slant the news in a certain way, say Fox News in my country, I would say as a Democrat, and certainly I think that's been proven to be true. Now we have a system where you've got young entrepreneurs who are trying to make money. They're going on chat rooms like 4chan and 8chan and Reddit, where false narratives are being developed. Those narratives, those comments disappear within 48 hours. They create a story out of it. There's a very sophisticated and well-funded system of bots and other activists from other countries that are then pushing that information into the cycle of social media. And Facebook, let's face it, has become the most powerful information tool in the world. Why? Because you can see something on NBC News or you can see something on TV 24 here, but when your friend sends you something and you guys already agree and it's something that you feel like makes you feel good about what you believe, then we're all self-selecting that information. And this is something that we saw in an unprecedented degree in the 2016 election cycle in the United States, and I think it's been absolutely devastating to the political discourse in my country, and I've seen it's been devastating to the political discourse here in Macedonia for 10 years, to the point that friends of mine I've known for 10, 15, 20 years, and I can't even have conversations anymore, about politics because we can't agree on what reality is. And that is, I think, the fundamental core of the problem. If we, as in democracies, cannot agree on what is a fact and what is not, then the system starts to fall apart. And I think that there are a lot of different ideas and things that we can talk about to fix that and to address that. Media Matters, the organization I used to be to lead, has developed software to track where this stuff starts. But I'll tell you, the answer is with all of my esteemed colleagues have already said, but it's not just there. It's got to be more aggressive. We need rapid response, identification of fake news, immediate dissemination globally to journalistic entities around the world, warning them that something is fake news and asking them not to repeat it, because that's honestly one of the biggest problems is something gets written, it's created by some site that sounds good, and then other news organizations repeat it, and then it's out, and then people believe it. So I've got lots more to say, but in the interest of being brief, I will let you...
Thank you so much, Eric. We will now go to a European perspective. Mr. Paolo Cesarini, Head of Unit responsible for media convergence and social media within DG Communication Networks, Content and Technology at the European Commission. When I checked the Media Literacy Index, in terms of responding to the phenomena, it is based on more or less 3 factors: education, also digital or e-participation, freedom of the media, and trust in a society, in institutions, etc. This is, I think, on the response side. Can you tell us about what is the latest on the European perspective, and if there is anything that the Commission is working that is ongoing and very current? Paolo, please.
Yes, with pleasure. First of all, I would like to join the other speakers for thanking you for this invitation, for having organized this panel on a topic which is indeed very important. I will not repeat what the others have already said, and many things that have been said. I think I share their view, in particular what Eric said regarding the sophistication of the methodologies through which disinformation is spread by manipulating online medias. It is at the core of our problem today. Fake news is a bad term, probably. It is, first of all, because the fake news phenomenon is old, has always existed, and secondly, because it has been weaponized by powerful actors in order to throw discredit on medias that simply publish information they do not find agreeable. So I think the phenomenon we are discussing today is deeper, it is wider, and needs to be requalified. The definition is not an easy one, but I think we need to think about this element of intentional manipulation at the heart of the definition, and the intent that these manipulatory strategies or campaigns are actually aiming at. And the targets are either political, the agendas that are behind it are either political, therefore, or economic. In both cases, what we need to focus on, it is on those forms of disinformation which are causing a public harm. That, I think, is at the core of our concerns. Public harm for electoral processes, but public harm also for policy-making processes. This information can alter the perception of people regarding democratic, fundamental democratic values, those values that shape our policies in a number of areas: immigration, climate change, health, security, finance, you name it. So we have to be, first of all, aware of the pervasiveness of the phenomenon, the sophistication of the tools which are put in place, and most importantly, the evolution that this phenomenon displays. It is not always the same. The new technologies are changing, and the ways through which malicious groups which can be states, third states behind them, or in domestic groups that harness these technologies for malicious purposes. Well, these technologies evolves, so we need to be aware that a response that we would fix today may not be right tomorrow. With that in mind, the Commission has been, during the last months, doing a lot of work. In particular, it has organized the structured dialogues with all stakeholders. We believe very much in a multi-stakeholder approach to tackle this problem. We think that any solution has to be inclusive. We need to take into account that this is something that concerns online platforms, media, traditional media, both broadcasters and press, but also involves civil society. And within the civil society, there are new forces that are emerging, like fact-checkers, that actually deploy a new function which was not there, and they do it in an autonomous and independent manner. So we need to factor all these elements together. To do so, we have carried out quite extensive public consultations. The Eurobarometer has published, or rather will publish next week on the 26th, its report. And on the same date, the Commission will also publish a communication where it will announce actions that will be taken very soon with a quite tight roadmap to tackle this problem. So today I'm a little bit squeezed between the announcement that will be made the next week and what I can say today. But let's say what I can say indeed, without anticipating too much, is that there are three key ideas that we need to keep in mind. I think that is important to keep in mind. The first idea is that if the problem is multifaceted, if disinformation is fast-evolving, multifaceted problem, we need to have a multidimensional approach. This is what the high-level group that has published its report on the 12th of March has actually recommended. I think that is a good idea. But what are the elements of this multi-dimensional approach? The first one, I would say, and there are three in essential. The first element is the need for more transparency. I think citizens, users are a bit confused. We know that 57% of Europeans today get access to information via online means, including social media, search, news aggregators. But we also know, and that is quite contradictory and interesting to note, is that the trust, Raquel, you mentioned trust, that is an important element there. The trust that citizens have on media and information sources is showing that 70% of Europeans consider radio the most trusted. 60% is television. 63% is printed press. If you look at the trust that citizens have on online media, on social media, this goes down to 27%. So there is an enormous gap. On the one side, users are increasingly engaging with information via social media. At the same time, they don't trust it. We need to do something there, right? And the first things to do it is to create a more transparent news ecosystem, a more intelligible news space for users. That implies several things, by the way. And the high-level group points the fingers on the obligations and the responsibilities of online platforms. Online platforms that through algorithms and through specific design for their own services are enabling the dissemination of information for the good purpose, they are also being themselves manipulated because their services, their technologies have been used by others in order to achieve goals which were not probably initially designed in, factored in their own services. So they need to do something. They need to create better services. And there are 10 principles that have been actually agreed already to a certain extent by online platforms on which they will be required to work intensively. And these 10 principles point to various directions. The first one, it is to remove economic incentives from purveyors of disinformation that exploit a certain type of algorithms, which are those in place in the ad networks. The advertising industry, the real-time bidding markets that is in place through AdSense for Google, but through many other technologies that serve the same purpose, actually is quite opaque and do not take into account the credibility of the websites that act as a landing pages for banners. This is the Vele story. But this is not enough. I mean, there is also a need to have more transparency about the sources of information. Users need to, and users, I mean, citizens at large, needs to be empowered in order to be able to recognize bots, in order to be protected against troll factories and fake accounts. They need to have better tools. And when I say better tools, I mean tools that enable a more customized, more interactive, more personal, more user-driven navigation in the universe of information that is flooding us every day, particularly on social media. But we need also to have a more transparent access to data, privacy-compliant access to data that the platforms are collecting in order to enable research and to enable a better understanding of the phenomena of this information as it develops. So there are a number of things that platforms need to do. Second point is about the need for a proper infrastructure to restore credibility in the information. Here I mentioned before fact-checkers. The high-level group talked about network of research centers. I think there is something to be done in order to overcome the fragmentation within Europe and to bring together and to create together a community of fact-checkers and source checkers and researchers that can actually advance our knowledge about this information, credibility. And the third and last point is about diversity. This is a point which is important because because it involves the responsibility particular of the public authorities. The public authorities need to have actions both on the demand side and on the supply side. At the core of it is that critical thinking and responsible user behavior relies on the fact that people are educated to read and to understand what they read, but also to act as citizens that participate not only to the public life, but also to the new ways that information is produced and disseminated. Raquel talked about citizen journalism. Yeah, that is part of this transformation, I believe. So what it is necessary is to ensure diversity of the information landscape is to, on the one side, on the supply side, to ensure that the business model of traditional media remain sustainable in the long term. And member states need to do something about it. Probably we are talking about funding here. Funding that it is for training, funding that is innovation in services, funding that it is for acquiring the necessary skills and tools to cope with the digital transformation for journalists. And we talk about media literacy. That is a core. That is very important. Users need to be aware of what is happening around them, but they need also to understand that they have a role in the information space and to how to use it. To conclude, and to what Matthew was saying, you are very much insisting on communication. Yes, there is also a need to have, for public authorities to better communicate. Strategic communication may be part of the response, of this multidimensional response. And the Commission has started already in 2015 by setting up the East Stratcom task force that is focused on Russian propaganda, particularly in Eastern neighborhood and Eastern Europe. So, but it needs to be stepped up in terms of approach, in terms of knowledge, in terms of ability to convey positive messages that are not counter propaganda.
Thank you, Paolo. We have the last but definitely not the least, Sashka Cvetkovska, who is one of our most prominent investigative journalists, which is a line in journalism that is on the other side of the copy-paste one. And when we talk about the business model, it's actually very hard to sustain because it takes weeks and months of resources and work, and it competes with this daily stream of shocking titles. So I think because we have struggled with accountability of our politics, and the region struggles with accountability of politicians, investigative journalism, by and large, is something that we have to support. Sashka is a winner of several national and international awards, but she has also set up the Investigative Reporting Lab Macedonia, an NGO with a mission to fight misinformation with real reporting through interdisciplinary approaches. So, Sashka, you have the floor. Maybe a little bit about to what extent we can rely on fact-checking platforms in facing and or combating fake news.
Ако зборуваме одвоено за факт-чек платформите кои постојат и чија задача е да ги следат лажните вести кои се појавуваат и потоа нели да ги реконструираат лагите. Иако пред можеби 2 години мислев дека тоа е добар пристап, сега моето мислење е променето. Мислам дека тоа е изгубена битка. Во моментов имаме хиперпродукција на лаги дневно во Македонија и секаде и да гониме секој од нив, тоа е непотребно трошење на ресурси и ние мора да најдеме некој нов начин како ќе се справуваме со овој проблем. Сите еве ние на панелот не можеме да се согласиме нито како ќе го викаме ова. Дали е фейк нюз, дали е misinformation, дали е нешто друго. Нешто е, не знаеме точно што и ја не можам некој термин да употребам, бидејќи ние не го познаваме добро нашиот непријател очигледно и затоа сметам дека интердисциплинарниот пристап кој нема да вклучува само, како што предлага комисијата, невладини организации, медиуми и влади, треба да вклучува и академски експерти, треба да вклучи на големо експертската академска заедница од социолози до луѓето вклучени во технологија, во сите тие сегменти, треба да ги вклучиме граѓаните кои работат во граѓанското општество, но неминовно само во организации кои се бават со медија, или со граѓански активизам, зашто да не ги вклучиме и синдикатите, и сите оние кои се загрижени, мора да сватиме првин што е тоа со што се соочуваме, а потоа ние да бараме и да зборуваме за некакви решенија и како ќе се бориме. Кога сме кај факт-чек, јас можам да ви кажам за еден друг факт-чек, како изгледа тоа во нашата организација, во OCCRP. Ние сме дел од поодамна, уште кога јас работев во Нова ТВ, од Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, тоа е меѓународен проект за известување за организиран криминал и корупција. И нашата последна приказна, Word of Millionaire или Кучење на војната, вклучи, пред малку баш ги запишував, имавме 4 уредници, тимови во 5 земји од по 3 новинари плюс дополнителен персонал назначен да помага со ресерчот. Имавме дополнителни 4 луѓе кои се бават со технологија и кои имаат задача исто така да им помогнат на тие кои ни помагаат во ресерчот. И околу 25 луѓе сигурно се бавеа 4 месеци со оваа приказна. Документацијата на фајлот од ова истражување е околу 1500 страници на документи, на фотографии, на ноутс, на што не. И на крај, кога сето тоа ќе заврши, кога нашето истражување ќе биде, да речеме, во финалната фаза, се предава кај други уредници, па кај главниот уредник, кај ДРУ, и оваа приказна имаше 28 драфт верзии пред да оди да се објави. 28 драфт верзии. Последната е кога ќе се заврши таа 28-та, тока не завршува. Тука ви праќаат факт-чекер, и тоа германец, значи многу темелен. Значи тоа оди до таму што, например, Биргит, тоа го прави строго германски, ми вика, Сашка, I can see from this picture that the fence is rusty. Не можела да види од фотографијата дека оградата е раѓосена. И јас се велам, Биргит, сите бевме таму. Јас, 20 новинари, навистина раѓосена оградата. I don't see it. И потоа изгубивме 3 дена, бидејќи додека она не се убеди до најмалиот збор дека оградата не е раѓосена навистина во фабриката. И тоа се оди на фактчек, дури и тоа. И што се случи на крај? Па ние објавивме приказната, пола од луѓето кои не знаат, не сакаат или кои не знаат, ни рекоа браво, супер, колку сте храбри, како ви текнува да го правите. Инаку приказната беше за меѓународна трговија со муниција. Пола не ни знаеа што правиме, не знам, комшиката ме сретна, на татко ми пријателка ми рече, видели Јована денес обраќајќи мало во Србија. Е тоа, нормално и кажа, баш памтам, кажа Роберт, лагата завршува кога ќе се открие вистината. Не. Пола од луѓето ја прочитаа, пола не ја прочитаа, тие што прочитаа половина ни рекоа браво, другите половина рекоа, смислиле американците сега, они негде да носат оружје, па вас ве пратиле, Боже ми истражуваат. И тоа е тоа, значи пола ни веруваат, пола не ни веруваат и најголемата последица, најстрашната последица од фейк ньюс е недовербата. Ние повеќе не уживаме доверба. Дали ќе истражуваме 4 месеци, 10 месеци или еден ден, што и да правиме, не имаме исто доверба колку секој денеска што си ја работи својата работа половично или не си ја работи или што и да прави. Никаква доверба. Кога ние немаме доверба, граѓаните кога немаат доверба во нас и се зимаат низ призма на недоверба и на сомнеж, сомнежот е главниот продукт на така наречените лажни вести или полувистините, тогаш како ќе можеме да, како нашите граѓани ќе можат да носат одлуки во својот најдобар интерес. Ако не ни веруваат нам, нема да им веруваат на институциите. Во моментот кога нема да им веруваат на институциите, граѓаните веќе не ги поседуваат институциите, граѓаните немаат институции, тие не се нивни. Излезноста на изборите во Европа, пошироко во САД, во последната декада тоа го покажува. Се помалку и помалку луѓе излегуваат на избори да гласат, се помалку луѓе се заинтересирани за политиките кои се креираат и кога луѓето не веруваат никому или веруваат на погрешните луѓе, кога има сомнеш, тие не располагаат со вистински информации за да одлучуваат во својот најдобар интерес. И тука е проблемот и навистина е многу девастирачки. Ја немам идеја, освен пораката дека мора да направиме повеќе. Ова не е панел. Ми се допаѓа прв пат на Балкан да зборуваме за некои теми малку по-прогресивни, да не зборуваме за мртви коњи и воини, да зборуваме за нешто добро и би било убаво овој самит да има и заклучоци, како што имаат оние за слобода на медиуми и на ОПСЕ, што ги правиме спикапите, и на ЕУ. И еве, бидејќи министерот е тука, може да му предложам, па ете тој да биде иницијатор на една широка работна балканска група, која ќе опфати многу инволвирани страни, еден интердисциплинарен пристап, за да можеме да видиме кој е непријателот, како да се бориме со него, дури потоа. Фала.
Благодарам, Сашка. I think it's time to involve the audience here. Let's see if we have questions. I suggest to take them in sets of 3. We still have maybe 15 plus minutes. And then please introduce yourself if you want to address the question to a particular person on the panel. Say so, if not, and we will take 3 questions in a go.
Thank you. My name is Tanja. I come from Jožef Stefan Institute from Slovenia. It's a research institute. And I'm involved in a European project that actually deals with the problem of fake news. My first remark, and then a question, is that I missed the technological aspect in this debate. And I'm aware that you said that user awareness is one of the greatest factors in order to approach the problem of disinformation and fake news, but a problem that is, first of all, created and then exaggerated by technology cannot be solved just by increasing the user awareness. So I would like to ask, for example, the people involved in the process of fact-checking, where they see technology facilitating their work. You mentioned that there is a list of rules, and each time when we say rules, we think of something that maybe technology is also able to learn. So artificial intelligence and machine learning for sure find place here to facilitate this process. So BBC and Washington I would address this question to them. Where do you see technology facilitating the process of fact-checking and bringing the truth out?
Thank you so much, but we'll take two more and then bring it back to the panel. So,
Христо Ивановски. Јас речиси 30 години новинар, како мојата колешка, со прво со една кратка забелешка дека за новинар не постои фейк ньюс, затоа што тоа е само по себе невозможно. Новинарот пренесува или продуцира вести. Фейк ньюс значи сам себе си да се негира, тоа значи да се избрише како новинар и да се постави на нешто што нема врска со новинарството, пропаганда или специјална војна и така натаму. Сакам да кажам дека, што ме поентава, да информирам целиот панел дека во моментов се одвива еден многу значаен проект кој се вика European Observatory for Fake News and Hate Speech, кој е финансиран од Европската комисија. Тој не е оној проект кој е специфично наменет за борба против пропагандата на Раша ТВ и Спутник, туку станува збор за проект во кој во основата е European Grassroots Anti-Racist Movement, EGAM, од Париз, и во кој се уште 20 невладини организации од 20 земји, меѓу кои земји кои не се членки на Европската Унија, како Република Македонија, Црна Гора или Турција. Поентата на овој проект е после 2 години да се види дали она што Сашка го поставува е оваа битка на ветерници или навистина ние можеме како невладини организации пред се како новинари заедно со европската бирократија. Прашањето е дали навистина можеме да се избориме против ова зло и да го лоцираме ова зло. Тоа е отприлика прашањето кое се наметнува. Фала.
И уште едно прашање.
Hi, my name is Vladimir from Pixel Digital Marketing Agency. My question essentially to you is, do you believe that government agencies and news agencies in general need to have, let's say, a better training in terms of social media and how they function in the way that they place news so that they can have maybe a better insight into how fake news actually spread and how to actually raise awareness and education with their employees and how to be more proactive in social media instead of using it like it's still the 19th century? Thank you.
Okay. First with you, Matt.
All right. So,
and Rachel and Eric, I think, right?
Thank you. I think I'll take the last question first. Absolutely. We invest a significant amount of resources in training any of our officers, whether they're civil servants, foreign service officers, to be able to communicate with the public, whether that's through public speaking, clearly, I need a little bit more of that, writing, or any other activity. And the problem is that social media is assumed to be something we all know because it is so ubiquitous, because almost everyone in this room, I imagine, has an account on one of the platforms. There's this kind of tendency to believe, yeah, you'll just pick it up. But the problem is that you can't. There's a literacy to it. There's a whole language, there's a whole modalities of how people engage on that. The way you engage on radio is different than TV. So to assume that we won't train on the transition from TV to, say, social media or digital media would be pretty bad. So I do think we do need to invest more training. You do see the State Department really building that up. We have training for officers on digital media. We bring people out to digital media conferences that are led by private sector voices who are really kind of at the forefront of all this. We bring in experts to kind of give us a little bit more advice. And as I said before, we're very eager to learn from some of our colleagues, including a number in this from the region. And then as far as the technologies and how we can bring them into kind of the fact-checking element, I think you're seeing that this is almost an economic argument. So in the U.S., we believe that there is freedom of speech. We champion that. Our country was founded in the town square. So having these platforms where free speech can occur is something we very much value. We are also very much into the entrepreneurial spirit. And so seeing these companies come up from nothing, come from dorm rooms to dorm rooms, to being global players is something inspiring and something that speaks to American innovation and American ideals. Now, when we talk about fact-checking, here's the thing. If no one goes to Facebook because they see it's full of misinformation, disinformation, if no one trusts Twitter, if we see that people just don't care to go to these anymore, they're going to see their market value go down. They're going to see that they're getting fewer and fewer people clicking on their ads and participating in anything that might generate revenue for them. So they will adjust because of the economic imperative to figure out how to make that better. And you see Facebook, you see Twitter, you see them incorporating fact-checking elements into their work, making contracts with fact-checking organizations and opening up options for users to flag things so that they can be fact-checked for us. So I think we do see this process moving forward.
Yeah. In terms of training, yeah, the BBC obviously forced everybody to go through extensive training on the use of social media. We are all encouraged to use social media as much as we can. We're all encouraged to use it ourselves, to tweet, to Facebook. That, you know, they are actually monitoring to make sure that we are doing that. But obviously that leads to some problems, because when we start to tweet as journalists affiliated with the BBC, we can get the BBC into trouble if we start putting our views and opinions out there. So there is an issue with that. In terms of what the gentleman here said about there is no fake news as a journalist, I would tend to agree with you, because, you know, if you are a journalist, you are doing all this fact-checking. There's nothing that's really changing in your job. You are putting something out there that you believe is true. If you don't believe it's true, then you're not a journalist. You are a propagandist. And if you are copy and pasting, again, you are not a journalist. You could be replicating fake news, lies, whatever. If you just take something and put it out there, that is not journalism. And in terms of, it would be very helpful to have more technology to help us in our task, but again, I think that's very expensive. I'll leave it at that.
Now, Eric.
Yes, so I think I'm going to say one thing that might be controversial up here to my colleagues. I think training journalists is obviously very important, because if we have good journalists, we have good journalism. But I think that one of the things in my experience is that we need journalistic outlets doing the journalism, and that's the job. And we have to have other apparatus in place to fact check and to help, quickly, rapidly identify misinformation and then disseminate it to those news outlets so that they can then be receiving that as a resource, rather than putting all the expectation on journalists to do the journalism and then also counter the fake news too. So because I think the problem is just too big. And there is technology, and I mentioned it briefly earlier, there is technology that's actually rather sophisticated that's been developed in the United States, where on certain chat rooms they can identify keywords. And these things can be shut down actually very, very quickly if the technology is in place, and if it's being utilized, and if there is a dissemination network to accepted governments and journalists around the world who are going to trust the credibility of that information before it reaches the consumer. And the last point is this. At the end of the day, like so many things in life, it's all about the money, okay? The fake news problem would not be the problem that it has become if people weren't making a lot of money on it or getting a lot of power from it. So there is an enormous amount of responsibility on Google, and Mark Zuckerberg has a lot to answer for. And they have a lot of work to do, and I think they're finally coming around to that responsibility, that they're going to have to do something. But it's going to take not just Mark Zuckerberg testifying before senators in the United States. I think he needs to be in Europe too. I think all of these tech executives, and there need to be very, very tight restrictions, because they can identify what fake news is in a scientific way. I think there are ways to do it. It's not perfect, but certainly that's where you start.
We're going to take a new set, maybe 2 questions now. Or Paolo, you want to jump in? Please.
Does it work? Yeah, okay. Just to add one thing, when we talk about government agencies that use social media in a more skilled manner, yeah, fine, it's beautiful. But let's not forget that we are talking about an area where freedom of expression implies the right of people to receive and impart information without interference by governments, and regardless of frontiers. This is Article actually 11 of the Charter of Fundamental Principles in the EU Treaty. So the role of governmental agencies cannot go to the point to become, as I said before, counter-propaganda. Hence, the importance of independent organizations, fact-checkers, exactly what Eric was saying, independent fact-checkers that would develop into more interdisciplinary groups to face the mass problem that you were mentioning, Saskia, before, and using appropriate technologies. The observatory, it is one attempt. It is one first example of this possible interdisciplinary and cross-border approach. And the cost of new technologies is really an issue. Content verification, cognitive algorithms, this time used for the good cause, not for the bad cause. It is certainly a way to pursue. The Commissioner has founded, under Horizon 2020, project already in this direction. Reveal is one. Invid is another one. Those are tools that are available. And the next work program, which will span from 2018 to 2020, will include further actions in the field of research and innovation to have better tools available also for this type of independent research on disinformation.
Okay. I think we should start the second and the last, probably, round of questions. And I will add one for Eric about emotions and politics. Yes. So, but first let's get, if there are questions, over there.
Моето име е Мирјана Јовеска. Ја поздравувам борбата за истеснување на недоволно проверени информации. Она што мене ме интересира, како вие мене ќе ме убедите лично да ви верувам, доколку и самите вие, конкретно Сашка, во случајот бидејќи наш представник од медиумите, како вие ќе ме убедите да ви верувам кога исто така објавувате некогаш недоволно проверени информации. Под недоволно подразбирам барем придржување на принципот на двојна проверка на информациите. Благодарам.
Уште едно. Зоран.
Добар ден на сите, го поздравувам целиот овој собри панел. Јас сум Зоран Фидановски, член и представник на Сдруженијето на новинарите на Македонија. Ако се согласиме дека единствениот мотив за фейк ньюс е заработка и пропаганда, бидејќи случајот Велес уствари го креира тинејџери кои што некои од нив можеби не беа ни полнолетни, дали сметате дека медиумската писменост е досега единствениот познат ефикасен лек во борбата со лажните вести? Тоа е едното прашање, ако дозволат само уште едно подпрашање. За големи пазари како што се американскиот и тој на Обединетото кралство, ги прашувам колегите од тамошните медиуми, дали имаат впечаток дека во нивните земји луѓето кога сакаат навистина да се информираат, на крајот пак се вртат кон традиционалните медиуми. Благодарам.
Благодарам. I will add one question, sort of inspired by your comments, Eric, on the difficulty of confronting emotional narratives and beliefs with facts and numbers. And this is an old story, but now emotions are weaponized through the new technology, including psychological profiling and individual targeting of people.
Yes.
So, anything that we can do about it?
Well, I mean, sometimes, honestly, as a political strategist, I would say sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. Now, I'm not saying you fight fake news with fake news, but if you look at what Cambridge Analytica did, they were doing personality profiles of hundreds of millions of Americans, or 50, 60, 70 million, and so they know what kind of a personality you are, they know what words you're going to respond to. So it's much more specific than just using emotion. It's actually scientifically designed to penetrate our thought process. I think that's where we have to work very closely with protecting the data. We all have so much data out there on us if you use Facebook. and if you use Twitter, and if you use Instagram, and any of these other tools, we have to get serious about protecting that information so that people cannot be profiled quite so easily. To an extent, this will be a problem we will be dealing with forever because our technology is only going to grow. And so campaigns are going to become more and more involved with trying to figure out who someone is and what kind of argument they're going to respond to, right? Which is why we have to have folks that we can trust to be arbiters and that have credibility in not just one country. This is now a global problem. And I do believe it is being orchestrated by certain countries that are looking to destabilize the Western democratic power and values and establishment, and that's going to continue.
Сашка, имаше директно прашање.
Да. Мојата работа не е да ве убедам да ми верувате. Пред малку зборувавме што можат владите да направат. Работата на владите е да им помогнат на граѓаните, медиумски да бидат писмени, да го промениме концептот во образованието и да вомедеме медиумска писменост како задолжителен предмет и така граѓаните ќе можат добро да препознаат што е точна и што е проверена информација. И бидејќи лично ме прозвавте за некаква информација, рековте и самата вие објавувате информации кои се неточни. Јас не се сеќавам на таков случај, но ние сме секогаш отворени да дебатираме. За жал, во нашата линија на борба со еден од главните напади во последно време кој го добиваме е дека ние правиме фейк ньюс и сето тоа е во ред, ние не можеме да им се лутиме на граѓаните за нивните ставови, но можеме да им се лутиме на владите кои се уште конкретно не е одлучиле, конкретно и решително, да им помогнат на граѓаните да ги препознаваат неточните и непроверени информации преку превентивен и системски пристап во образованието. Благодарам.
Па и ова е мал чекор, можеби, со самиот панел и оваа тема. Роберт исто имаше одговор. Кон Зоран, мислам.
И јас би сакал да спомна и Зоран, но и ми се чини уште од едно место беше споменато околу начинот на тоа како владите комуницираат со граѓаните и колку медиумите знаат да ги препознаат и политиките на владите и она што е од интерес на граѓаните. Ја целом се согласувам со Сашка дека ние треба и мора да работиме во интерес на граѓаните. Нивната писменост околу следење на комуникациите, мислам дека треба малку поинаку да ја дефинираме, бидејќи може да се наљутат и да не погледнат попреку и да речат вие ли ќе не описменувате, но треба да најдеме начин, затоа јас ги спомнав тие неколку форми во Министерството за образование што се предвидуваат, но во суштина се согласувам дека треба да соработуваме и да учиме едни од други. Ситуацијата на овој регион, Западниот Балкан, има своји специфики, европските држави имаат своји специфики, проблемот е насекаде подеднаков. И кога учиме од себе, треба да се обидеме да го детектираме пријателот, ако не можеме да го детектираме непријателот. Јас сум убеден длабоко дека граѓаните и покрај тоа што сакаат да и брзо ги се лепат на дезинформациите или на лажните вести, сакаат да слушнат вистинска информација. Тоа е нашата работа. Значи, треба институциите, системот професионално да комуницира и дефинитивно да не ги заборавиме единствените кои што можат да ни помогнат. А тоа се новинарите, новинарската професија. Еве во Македонија, примерот на она што се случува со новинарството не е за пофалба. Прво, новинарите работат во многу тешки услови. Квалитетното новинарство не функционира на начин на кој што сите би посакувале, што сме од таа професија или што сме дел од граѓанското општество. И граѓаните посакуваат. Собствеништвото во медиумите. Знаете каков клиентелизам и кој се е собственик на медиум во Македонија, па и во регионот. Значи, тука треба да посветиме внимание, бидејќи таа е професијата која што го прави филтерот и може да ги постави стандардите. Од тука да тргнеме, тоа го имаме на располагање. Доколку колабира новинарството, многу тешко ќе биде да ја најдеме втората или третата алатка. И се согласувам, брзината на информирање. Лажните вести експресно се шират. Вистината потешко продира и дополнително. Луѓето сакаат да слушнат непријатна вест, злобна информација и така натаму. Но верувајте, очекуваат и некој тоа да го демантира и да каже како е. Во спротивно ќе доминира лажната вест. Благодарам.
I think, watching the time, I will invite the audience to thank you, the panelists, for an interesting exchange. I will recall the words of one of the wisest analysts we have from the Balkans, Ivan Krastev, who, talking about populism, said, populism is a triumph of intensity over consistency. So I don't think we have given a final response how to deal with it, but I think we have distracted the problem, we have good ideas, exchange is extremely important, governments are responsible, definitely. So please join me in thanking the panelists, and I think this marks the end of a nice, successful digital summit of the Western Balkans in Skopje. So.